Let's hear it again. That's it.
Tony Caravan.
You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, and not what you don't.
Yeah, we're time to put the cow bandana back on. That's pretty much what it is these days. I noticed yesterday that the video was somewhat cleaner than the past two. Now I don't know if that's because I started with the iPhone or not, but iPhone off. Can't really tell, but Mr. Eyes Without a Face back there has got himself a Hawaiian bandana. And of course, everything you know is wrong. See, that's a shirt. Look at see the texture of that shirt? You get that for less than $20. TonyCaravanLive.com. What are you waiting for? Great solar stuff too. All right, let's get into this thing.
Okay.
So, I guess first of all, we should probably take a look at the remaining
Weekend weather.
I was just listening to Noah, and the outlook for today is sunny in the morning and cloudy in the afternoon, which means, though you can't see it, I got a pretty darn good suntan already on this. This thing is vanity. It's currently 61 degrees here outside my studio, and it's looking like it's going to be 84 degrees today. 64 overnight, Sunday, partly sunny, 84 degrees again, and 63 overnight, keeping the windows open. But it's kind of been muggy, I got to tell you. But starting Monday, there's an 80% chance of rain, and it's going to get down to 72. I mean, normal temperatures are in the 70s usually around this time. Lows don't go below 50. So this is ideal planning weather. I'm glad I got my stuff in, and that's your
Weekend weather.
Other than that, I've just been running around this morning. It's already 6:28. It's a far cry from these shows that sometimes I've started in the past, but, at 4 a.m. But what can one do? I just laid in bed and was hoping to, get some beneficial, feeling of rejuvenation by spending more time relaxing. But I'm still kind of tired. I don't know. It's I still got this big bruise on the side of my leg, which I wouldn't even show you because it's ridiculous from when I tripped. The morning show mugs. Yesterday's show, I delve a little bit into Earth, being kind of like a prison planet. Or the absurdity of wasting money on human space travel when we have, we're facing down the barrel, of an Earth cataclysm that's really coming at us like a freight train. And that there's a possible solution for, and that perhaps people in the past have found a solution to. However, subsequent generations didn't heed or understand the various things they left in stone to warn the next group, and the next group fell victim to it. And it's one of the problems that comes with myth, all right? Now, you have to think about this. If most of the intelligent people, and by intelligence, I don't mean, like better than, I just mean people with intellects and knowledge that they've accrued over a lifetime, are killed in a cataclysm, then anything, the idea that something existed, even like I'm trying to get my smartphone out of its sheath, that something like this existed would be, secondhand. It's kind of like, I think I have one here. Where is it? So those disasters, the box set. All right. Where is this thing? Come on. I know it's here. Come on. I know where it is. It's over here because it was hooked up to be charged. But as you can see, it is what we would refer to as a watch on a watch band. And this particular version is like an Apple Watch. But it's not really an Apple Watch. Okay. In fact, I'm going to plug this in. I didn't check this up to see if it will be recognized on my other. It says synchronizing. The iPod 2 cannot be used because requires iTunes version 10.0 or later. Go to iTunes for the latest. Okay. But I bet I could charge it at least. So let's let it there. Did you ever see those old pictures of the Sumerians? And it looks like they all wearing wristwatches, right? I mean, I could bring one of those things up. I don't even know if I didn't get a notification that we're broadcasting live, but I don't know. We probably are. If we aren't, so what? Ooh. My computer's acting really weird. Okay, let's see. Sumerian watches. Somebody's got to have a picture of that. I mean, this is just kind of a funny thing. Let's see if we can find a decent enough picture that I can hone in on. It's not going to destroy. All right, so let's hope that by putting this on, I do not destroy the bandwidth. I've been having problems with I can't see you or see myself. Well, I never can see you. But I have no idea what's going on. I'm going to try screen mirroring on Apple TV so I can show you this with the camera. Show you on my on the TV behind me. There it is. All right. So if you've ever watched anything, you've seen these classic Sumerian, carvings. And these guys always seem to be wearing some kind of thing that resembles a watch. All right. And they seem to all be holding handbags. And there's other pictures of them doing this. Like here's a guy, and then there's the guys with the pine cones and the watch, But, this is a good example right there. And yeah, I think you should have been able to have seen that. I hope. And, sorry, you could still see the bruise on this arm. You should see the one on the leg. It's like that big. So anyway, think about this. Cataclysm comes. I, for some reason, survive, right? And so I'm some kind of, and I have all this knowledge, and I've got my, in fact, I have one over there. I've got a Faraday cage. And so I save. I have this watch, that's kind of a, like an Apple Watch or a smart watch or just a watch, period. So I know what time it is, but better a smart watch because they do different things. Like, for example, I might as well unplug this from this charger. USB cord. Now I'll try to show you, but sometimes the glare on this, you have to hit it at a certain angle to really get. Well, actually, I could do it this way. I could do it with the camera. Such a primitive thing. Google and this so-called YouTube studio. See, even with the camera, let's see if I lean in on the keyboard. Oh, there we go. Okay. Now this is not the proverbial iWatch. This was the original iPad. And somebody came up with the idea of it was made to clip onto your thing while you ran. And it has, a radio built into it. Some kind of fitness thing that could count your steps. Of course, the clock, photos, podcasts, settings, and of course, music. But first and foremost, it was like a watch. See? Now, say I could just turn this off by holding this button. And it powers down. Okay. Again, I'm hoping that by doing this, I'm not somehow stealing bandwidth. So I wear this thing. I have one of these things because it was in my Faraday cage. And I've got a set of, not headphones that this big. I could have them this big, but, earbuds. And say maybe me and a couple of people, we survived this thing, right? This, whatever thing. Sorry, my wardrobe is falling apart. Multi-layers. It was hot in here this morning. So I'm like, I got the Hawaiian shirt out and the summer clothes and put a bandana on because the hat was just too much. So me, somebody else, or a couple of us, a band of brothers, we survived this cataclysm. And we have certain tech that, is insane because nobody else has anything. Everything else has been scoured like a Brillo pad over the continents, right? And we formed some kind of, excuse me, for doing all this stuff. I know it's ridiculous, but this isn't, I'm not wearing a tie, obviously. Look at me. So you got to take this with it the way it is. So we use the knowledge we have to build some kind of culture. You know, some kind of I wouldn't go so far to call it a city, but a city of sorts. Because like myself, you know, I have basic construction skills. I built a greenhouse in my backyard, but I'm not a master carpenter by any means. But I'm aware of things like that. And depending on what I may or may not have kept in my Faraday cage, Faraday box, whatever you want to call it, you know, perhaps I had something like this, which is this is powering, if you look at the on-air light. This is a lithium-ion battery in this rechargeable, either solar or other by other means, and you could plug things into it. And I could recharge that watch. You know, maybe I also had a tablet in there. Well, depending how big the thing was. And on that, I have collections of music under podcasts, maybe some how-tos. You know, someone putting together something like that. It's like a time capsule. You know, and you know, that watch would be prime for me to put into a Faraday cage because I don't use it. I used to use it in the wintertime. I'd wear it on my wrist and have the cord from the the headphones go up through my sleeve. It'd be bitter cold in the winter when I'd walk to the store. It'd be dark and it'd be like below freezing. And I'd just be listening to music in the morning on my walk. But with the way Apple computers and all these companies from Apple, Adobe, Google, like I just explained to you before, they don't allow older technology anymore. I mean, and if you really want to, it's beyond being a geek. You got to really rig stuff up. And sometimes the rigging doesn't work. And trust me, hooking up this whole setup that I have right now, because this is purely me using Google Studio. So if I decide I want to play the cows, since they're like on my hat, like my cap, my bandana, because we're cattle to the Davos set, right? The rulers of this planet Earth. You know, I had to rig all this stuff up to do that because I can't really do it from the main machine. So I have a G5 over here and an older version of software. So it'll run my old Adobe software too, because I canceled the extortion cloud service that Adobe had, charging me $50 some a month for the privilege of using software that on this computer over here, I already bought and own the frickin' boxes and the CDs too. Right? See, it's one thing to charge for, like they used to sometimes you got a free upgrade, sometimes they charge for an upgrade. But this idea of paying $50 a month or $600 a year, well, in 10 years, it's $6,000. You know, these programs only cost so many hundreds of dollars. Say they cost $500 or something. Well, I'm not going to pay, 10 times that, right? And that's just 10 years. People don't look at things like that. That's part of what this whole cloud thing is. And they've done it with utilities too. Everything is, excuse me. You know, I just got to say.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
Or at least she does.
Okay.
All right.
Here's what's happening.
Yeah.
Hey, it's me. How you doing, man?
I'm kind of huffing and puffing and blowing my own house down. That's what. Let me continue with this story. So I lived to so many years, have offspring or don't have offspring, but the city that we built, because I'm planting a garden, so I basically know basic agricultural skills. You know, I'm sensible enough to figure, well, there's a water source. We'll either locate close to that or we'll dig some kind of, trench and have that water come to us for irrigation. And fortify buildings in case some roving and other survivors decide to take what we have, that kind of thing. This is one of those mornings where I don't know why, but you can hear my throat. It's ridiculous. Something you don't want to do when you've had a prostate cancer either, and a prostate removed. Life is very difficult sometimes. There's so much we want to cover today. I'm just trying to figure it out in order. I don't have any notes set here or anything. So let's deal with number one. I just want to get some things out of the way. I gave you the foundation for what the discussion is going to be. So first, we're going to go to my mail. My face should get bright white. And it's yesterday's YouTube. Did I trash? Let's see here. What a moron. Well, apparently I trashed it, but I mentioned this in a previous video, but I got another notice of it. And I read it a little bit more, like read it like everything. Detailed. June 1st, which is literally like a week, 7, 8, 9 days away, 9 or 10 days away. Excuse me. YouTube is going to take a video like mine. Like, I don't know if you're seeing a commercial on this, but I'm not monetized. Okay. Never have been, they refuse to monetize me. It's an old story. It's because and they won't admit it because none of those people are around. Because I have old videos. I've been on YouTube for so many years. I showed the other day, I showed videos that I've made 14 years ago. Right? That got 11,000 views and things like that. And I was making videos. I mean, I was like the first guy on YouTube. I was the first guy on Facebook. I don't use Facebook as Facebook anymore. I post a link to a video sometimes on it, but that's it. I was the first guy on Twitter. I remember I was, there's my original Mac. So I was doing Mac and desktop publishing and using a 300 baud modem back in 1985. All right. And I was online. Right. I had websites in the 90s. Okay. So I was an innovator. And I came up with a better version of search than Google. I know it's hard for you to believe. Right. And Google felt I was in competition with them. And they used an excuse. They were trying to say that this is before Google really got into AdWords and stuff. This is how they copied, right? Before Google got into AdWords and all that kind of stuff, till they figured even out all that kind of stuff out, right? And they basically said that my search engine, right, was like some kind of pay to play type of thing. And because of that, they disqualified me from using, getting revenue, right? When they eventually decided to use AdWords or whatever the other thing is they have. I forget. I probably could have fought that and like got $1 billion or something. I don't know. But it's just one of those things. And at that time, I didn't care. I'm doing so much stuff. I have a rich life. I've done so many things that Anyway, I still have that search, and certain friends of mine still use it and say to this day, it's their start page, that it's phenomenally better than Google, phenomenally. But I don't want to get into that. So I haven't been monetized because people who probably don't even work at Google anymore, because we're talking, decades ago, almost 20 years ago or so, whenever this occurred. Yeah, they got spooked, and they tried playing their corporate games. That's what these companies do. See, they have two ways of dealing with you. They either buy you out, right, for a ridiculous amount of money. That's how all these people became, internet, millionaires and billionaires. Or they throw their muscle at you. So if they've developed something they put already sunk chunk of money in case of Google search, DARPA, and, they already had these plans for all this big data collection. They take somebody like me and they just basically mess with you. The proper word would be they fuck with you, that offends somebody. I mean, let's face it, I'm tired of that kind of stuff, in this country, it's like you can't see a woman's breast, right? But everyone, has seen a woman's breast on TV or something like that, or a movie, unless it's like, it's, whatever. You can't say shit or fuck. But most people these days say it. So fuck that. Anyway, so that's a story. So now what they're doing is, so I'm demonetized, and I've been demonetized from day one for fraudulent reasons. And I challenge them on that, right? Go bring, See, because the thing is, I also challenge them on that copyright thing. Like, I should be able to play, any kind of song I want to right now. But if I do, they'll give me a copyright strike, and three strikes, you're out. That means they're getting around the idea of they're not paying royalties to BMI, ASCAP, and CSAC. Right? They struck some kind of deal, and they've got this terms of service, so they have like Google or YouTube Music or something like that. Right? Because they don't want to pay the royalties. But in the 1990s, when I had the longest running, most popular lounge show on the internet, right? Tony Caravan Live, too, it was called Caravan Live, right? Written up in a couple of, print magazines and online magazines. Don't even exist anymore, like SonicNet. I don't think that even exists. I paid royalties. I actually paid BMI money because I was playing, this lounge. Remember when lounge? I don't. If you're young, you wouldn't remember, but if you're 30, you could remember. But in the 90s, lounge was kind of chic, right? That whole culture. And that's why I still have these like Hawaiian shirts and stuff, the tiki stuff, right? And so anyway, I paid and I broadcast. There wasn't YouTube back then either. I was broadcasting from a co-location server that me and a couple friends had, out at based in San Diego. And we were using something called Real Audio, which doesn't exist anymore. The company, the name it was bought, but we had Real Audio and Real Video. So we used to have we had radio stations, and I was doing this. And like I said, I was podcasting before Apple invented the iPod. And I have, people say, "Oh, this guy's full of crap." No, it's like I played this the other day,
Welcome to another Tony Caravan Live. Tonight I'll be doing something a little bit different. Rather than focus on the issues with a guest, I'll be presenting what I believe are the top 10 reasons why we should all be very afraid.
Anyway, that's Tony Caravan live from over 20 years ago. There, alone. All right. So Joe Rogan, eat your heart out. He's a fucking multi-millionaire now, sold out to Spotify, and I'm demonetized, and this show actually cost me money to put on, right? And it was guys like us who were doing this, because I don't even want to name one of the major players who later on became a billionaire, that inquired to our team, was just a couple of guys, about how the hell we were doing it. And then went on to make $1 billion, literally stole, we basically demonstrated. There's another guy now who's like big, who, called me one time begging for bandwidth. Like, how comes our show sounded so good and whatever. And like, and how could we get 20,000, listeners all at once or something like that? Live, and his signal would degrade after X amount, and for some reason his ISP or something was down, and it was a couple hours before a show. We let him put him on a server, and everybody who came on the show, I was a guest on that show that night, and people were calling in because it used to be call-ins. It was a tech show. It was like the real techies in the 90s. And people were saying, hey, man, how come tonight it sounds so good? The signal's so clear and it's so strong. That guy's making $1 million. I'm not. So just to give you the idea, that like they used to be a thing when, the modems before everybody was connected to the internet through like cable services and all that kind of stuff. You used to have to connect with a dial-up modem. And it used to say use a Hayes compatible modem, right? Well, before the internet like literally blew up and became the biggest, thing since sliced bread, the company Hayes went out of business. And that's basically the story of the real story about big tech. I always wanted to do a documentary about that, because there's so many stories the average person doesn't know, and so many names behind the scenes that created this thing, right? And made all this capable. And now you got a bunch, like I always say, a bunch of people making 6 and 7 figures, drinking Starbucks coffee, sitting around a table talking about social justice issues. And they don't even know how to use this technology. We gave them all this. This is all copied from everything we did, right? And I don't care who your coder is or whatever. That guy's giving you a line. He stole it. It's like Twitter. Twitter was basically open source. All right. I had a website back in the 90s that I've told this story before, but since I'm on this roll, there was open source code, because we used to share code back there. I was in the HTML guild, it was called. And it was just a loosely organized group of internet geeks who basically everybody was figuring out stuff, right? And when you'd figure it out, you'd post it, or people would post questions. Hey, how do you do this? How do you do that? Right? And there was open source code people were working on, trying to make a better way to have people on your site, web pages, because we were doing web pages before AOL was even sending out those CDs. Okay? We had web pages before AOL, before You've Got Mail type of thing. Before that even happened, we had websites. And we're broadcast. I had music shows and stuff and video. People don't understand that. It's revisionist history. It's like I say. Well, anyway, people wanted to have a way for people to not have to email them so that they could, just on your site, leave a message to you. All right. And that was the early version of just, form, like form mail type of thing, form. And then what happened was once everybody started putting their minds to it, because this was all open source. This is browser based. This is just basic, code base. This had nothing to do with proprietary software. All right. And so what we had all finally worked out was a way that not only could you leave a message on your website, but that someone could reply, right? Have a title, add an image, right? And share it. Twitter was Twitter. And so I had taken that and I had made a separate page, because a lot of people just used it on like a contact page, or they just wanted to have a discussion group. They used to call, type of thing, in that regard. But I had taken an experiment where I put it down the center of a page, and it was based, for all practical purposes, it was Twitter. But that was like 1995 or 1996 or something. I don't know when Twitter came along. Let's look. New window. When did Twitter start? March 21st, 2006. So I had Twitter. I had an operating Twitter 10 years prior, right? The same with Facebook. I mean, Facebook, we know it had its starts in Cambridge, but that was February 2004. And this is that thing I keep trying to tell people, right? That these apps, right? They're not that old. Twitter's like 15 years old. And people are addicted to it. Facebook's a little bit older, but not really, because it was like in its real infancy, it was like that was that whole crazy Zuckerberg and those twins and all that kind of thing before, by the time it made it out to where people start really getting on. But, I was on those things right in the beginning because we were, pioneers of the internet. That's just something I wanted to tell people, just something you need to know. I try reinforcing that thing. You've allowed this thing to become the center of your life, and the damn thing didn't even exist 15, 16 years ago. Right? I mean, we might as well go, let's see, new window. When did the iPhone come out? Not iPhone 11. When did the iPhone period come out? 2007. Same deal, right? 14 years ago. That's what I'm saying. And I've been saying this for the longest time. 10, basically 15 years approximately. But really almost like between 10 and 15 years, because when they came out, there were early adopters, people that got into it early on. But it didn't become like the mind fuck, opioid, dopamine addicted thing, until like the last 10 years or so. 10 to 15 years. And now people can't live without their little pet, right? Yeah. Oh, my little pet. I got to take it everywhere with me. It's the most important thing. Sleep with it under my pillow or side of my bed. Hook it up somewhere in something on my car. Right? I mean, I got one. This is old. I don't have a cell phone in here, and I pulled the chip out of it. I use a Wi-Fi. I said before, I use Magic Jack Wi-Fi app for phone. Costs $40 a year. How much are you paying for cell phone service? I don't use it as a cell. I use Wi-Fi phone. I was down. I mean, everybody's got Wi-Fi. And most stores, you don't see now. I was just talking to somebody the other day because literally 2 days ago, I don't know, it might have been yesterday morning, but if it wasn't, it was the day before yesterday. There's a grocery store. It's just about a half mile down the street. It's around a mile or so round trip. A half mile sounds longer. Let's just put it this way. It's just a couple blocks away. All right. Short walk, more or less. And I got in there, and just for the heck of it, I called a friend of mine. And I noticed that I was automatically connected to their Wi-Fi, like in the latest upgrade, because, she was saying something like, well, if you've already logged on, then it'll automatically just log you back on. And I'm going, no, this is the first time I've ever made a phone call from this place. So in the latest upgrade, these things now, they just find Wi-Fi. There's probably a way for you to shut it off or something. But so why would I pay, $80 a month or whatever people pay, unless you got some kind of group plan, but somebody's paying the $80 or $100 a month, one way or the other. So why would I pay anything? Why would I pay $40 a month when I could pay $40 a year and listen to and be able to make a phone call from anywhere? Go to the doctor's office, they got Wi-Fi. Go to Walmart, they got Wi-Fi. Automatically, it's just there. Somebody calls me, I'm automatically hooked up. Go to the grocery store, they got Wi-Fi. Don't have to do anything. Don't have to go into settings. Don't have to do anything. Right? Hell, they got Wi-Fi in cars now. Anyway, so I'm a geek, and I got that out of the way. So June 1st, Google YouTube Studio is decided that they are going to start putting commercials on people who are not part of the partner program, like me, all right? Demonetized or just not even a part of the program. I'm not even a part of their program. So, I'm questioning whether or not I just stop doing these things on Google. I might just do, shorter videos on locals, TonyCaravanLive.locals.com, where you could find these videos as well. I have a community page there. And maybe and who knows, there are some other sites that people are starting to put up. And part of me is thinking that they don't really care. In other words, they're trying to push people out. Because what they really want to be is they want to be the new Comcast, like cable company. Right? Think about it. They've got Google, they've got YouTube movies, right? You can rent movies through Google. YouTube, I mean. Well, same thing. Google Alphabet. However their hierarchical flowchart structure is. Get around paying taxes and whatever their scam is. They have YouTube Music. That's like their competition with Apple Music, or Amazon Music. And that's the one where royalties are paid. Okay. But not through here. They have all the news networks are all there. So it's YouTube News. And then they have the YouTube millionaires, like the shows. And then YouTube produces certain programs themselves, and movies. And so that's what they're trying to become. So what they're trying to do is just muscle out, not just people like me, but all of founders, so to speak, the people that made Google what it was, YouTube what it was, right? This, tube as in cathode ray tube, which they got a serious problem with that. That's like 20th Century Fox, at least, was smart enough, that now they call themselves Searchlight Films or something like Searchlight Pictures or something like that. So they took a portion of their logo, which was that beginning dun, 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 with the searchlights, and they just called Searchlight Pictures. But YouTube has got, they have this little tube with the arrow now. You don't see the YouTube too much anymore, except in their URL. But they need to get rid of it because both words are wrong. First of all, it's not you, because they're kicking us, who are the yous, out of it. And tube, there's no tubes anymore in monitors or televisions. So it's kind of just a goofy thing. A little bit of internet history there. And I'm one of many, I'm one of thousands who were the pioneers that made all this stuff happen. It was like, because it was very, democratic, the way we shared, and worked on stuff. It wasn't even, you didn't even question it. Somebody would contact you and say, hey, how'd you do that thing? Or anybody out there know how to I'm trying to enlarge a picture. I got a jewelry store. That's the one time somebody because I came up with a radio, because I was doing a weekly radio show. And so I came up with this really neat graphic user interface GUI that looked like an old car radio. All right. And you were able to click, when you clicked to see my show, this thing came up in a separate window that was the perfect size of like a car radio. And it just looked like it. Right. And the buttons actually worked. And the buttons, if you know how to code, it's real basic code, but it's like you can have like various status. I don't know what the word would be. I'm not a big jargon guy. I've never been in my whole life. I just do things, I don't my brain doesn't think that way. It's like, I don't like the times tables. You know what I mean? I just like to do. All right. Think. But anyway, you can have like position when it's normal status, like nothing's being done. When you mouse over it, it might change a color. And then if you press on it, then it does something different, right? So I had buttons that actually like kind of indented, like the old push buttons on a real old car, like an old Mustang or something like that. But it came out in its own window that was perfectly sized because I wanted it to look like a little car radio thing. And because it was its own page, then you could go elsewhere and have that thing there. And as far as I know, I was like the first guy to ever figure that out, right? On a net, I was using Netscape at the time. And I remember some woman contacted me. She was like, she was selling jewelry or something online, necklace, homemade jewelry and stuff. And she said, hey, how'd you do that? Because I've got jewelry for sale and I wanted people to be able to click on the item and have it come up in a separate window, like bigger, so they could see it. And I'm like, sure. And I just copy and pasted the code and, and put, and showed her where she would have to, personalize it for herself. And I remember she like emailed me back because she got it to work. she's like, thank you so much. I'm like, hey, whatever. That's what we do. That was the early people on the internet. We just all helped people out. We didn't care. We weren't selfish. We weren't narcissists. We weren't, it was like I said, it was very democratic. And that's how this all came to be. And then then it started becoming like monetized. Ad banners. People were stealing that technology that I created, as far as I know, and turning it into like pop-up ads or something. I don't know. But all I know is the thing denigrated, as the 90s progressed. And then all these .com billionaires start popping up using all the stuff that we created. Right? We did the down and dirty work. We did the coding, the testing, the broadcasting. But like when you look at Apple, when you look at Twitter and stuff and say like, hey, we were doing this stuff 10 years before they released their stuff. 10 years, a decade, right? And those companies are worth billions and billions of dollars. And guys like us there aren't many of us even left, Many are dead, or just out of it, Probably died broke. So yeah, YouTube's going to do that, and that's going to be that's going to be the beginning of the end of this kind of programming. Because nobody's going to want to watch. See, what will happen is they'll on a 2-hour broadcast. I don't know how they're going to do it in live when it's live. If they're going to interrupt like right now and then somehow record delay to insert a commercial, or they're going to wait until after, right? So in other words, if you don't see it live till after, and then they're going to insert like a dozen commercials. So they'll make a 2-hour broadcast like 2.5 hours or whatever, or longer. Yeah, and there's some other weird stuff about facial recognition and some other things that were in this new terms of service thing I was noticing. And I'm like, I don't even know what that's about, right? It would just seem kind of freaky. So a lot of weird stuff going on. But anyway, let's do the normal stuff. Took me a while to get into that, halfway through the show almost. So on the card today is very clean YouTube card. It just says, you are here. And it's a picture of Apollo 8, the moon. And it says the morning show. Let's take a look at it. Like I say, hopefully this isn't modeling like it did before. Because that really it's annoying. That's my coffee cup. That's how nice these things really should look. The morning show. You are here. And that's what we're going to talk about in the second part of this webcast. And like I say, this way to the beach, down below, home sweet home. And of course, Earth is our home. Now, my YouTube channel is called Rock Flux. And I've had that for decades. And the idea is we're on this rock and it's in a state of flux. So home sweet home. And the description says, despite our sci-fi dreams, the current herd of humans occupying the third rock from the sun won't be exploring the stars this time around. And this kind of plays off of what I was trying to say yesterday about not only cataclysms, right? And then when I showed you the watch thing and all that kind of stuff. But the absurdity of wasting money to try. In other words, You know, and like I say, Scotty, you never waste a good opportunity to use a communicator. TC out. But we're not a Star Trek civilization. You see? Because we're not going to make it that way. Western civilization has fallen. You have to come to grips with that. Just look around. You know, they used to call it the dumbing of America. Remember that? The dumbing down. Well, that all happened. And that's why I call it the former United States. By the way, it's May 22nd in the calendar year 2021 for those somehow viewing this in the distant future if it survives. But America fell. You know, it's the former United States. You know, forget this Save America and all this other kind of stuff and politics and elections. Just, I'm not going to get on a rant on that. Stop. Save your money. All right? Use it for yourself, for your family, loved ones, pets, whatever. Right? Don't send it to candidates. They are marionettes of a corporatocracy. It's a for-profit venture now that is the former United States. And there's a collection of corporatocracies that were formerly nations. All right? And they are all ruled by an organized crime syndicate that meets every year in Davos. Right? This year was the World Economic Summit. Right? Is that what it was? The World Economic Summit? The Great Reset. All right. So that's that. And you got to get that in your thick skulls. All right. So we're not going to space. All right. That tin can joke of a space station that we have. Right. Just watch a little bit of 2001. Okay. Like I say, new window. 2001, A Space Odyssey. Let's see if we can just get some images here. Something interesting. So hard to find anything. But just say this. Good. All right. I don't know what this thing is, but there's some stupid thing going on. Okay, we don't make spacecraft like that, and we're not going to, and neither is Elon Musk, okay? That's not happening during this civilization, this 12,000 year cycle of, a being. We may waste some time, in the next 20 years or so before this thing hits. Maybe have put a research base on the moon. I doubt it. I doubt it though. I don't see anybody like really moving fast at it. Excuse me. Slurping. If you want to really do something like this, you have to really like jump into it. And we're not doing that type of thing.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1,
blast off. It's just not happening, you know? It's just not happening. Because we don't have the will to do it. And the billionaires that are doing this are just wasting their time. They're wasting their money, time and money. Just like I was saying before. It's like people who are wasting their time on AI and trying to build a better thinking machine than our own biological human brains. See, think about this. Why wouldn't you want? Here's where the nefarious and the big questions I have. Okay. Oh, by the way, that you are here, you know, you've seen the space junk picture I've shown. The Earth no longer looks like the thing on the title card, right? You've seen the space junk. You have, haven't you? I better show this in case there's some new people here. Previous slides. Let's see here. Earth junk. All right. Just to get this out of the way. That's what the Earth looks like. This is what the Earth really looks like. You see that? Those are all, if we zoom in, they're satellites. Space junk. So you could look back at the title card and see that clean picture from back in the 60s. Well, here's what we did, 69, 70, whatever. This is what we've done in the last 50 years. Space junk. And Elon Musk is putting more space junk up for this 5G nonsense, right? As if we don't have enough internet. It's already ubiquitous. And his is expensive. So don't think it's like going to be giving the continent of Africa, which I was talking about the other day, or people in South America or poor nations in Southeast Asia, as if they're going to get free internet. All right. This is an elitist thing. It's like a lot of these foundational type of people. Yeah, they'll do some photo ops and they'll give a few grants here and there to, so they could get their narcissistic, day in the sun. But nah, they're not offering this. This is no gift to the world. It's a for-profit venture by the corporatocracy that includes big tech and big pharma, right? And military contractors and Wall Street, all those usual players form the corporatocracy that all collected throughout the world are run by an international crime syndicate who deal with everything from pharmaceuticals, but also heroin trade, human trafficking, and everything else. All right, get that through your thick skulls. So yeah, we're not going to see generation. I don't know. This group, this herd of humans is not going to see the Star Trek world, right? Star Trek, The Next Generation, right? Because we're not putting in the effort to where it's that kind of intense focus, unified, right? Right. Everyone's on it. Everyone's in on it. Let's do this thing. Right. The whole idea of the lunar missions. though there was an element of that never really came out. A lot of people still don't know about it. Part of it also was a cover for us to develop intercontinental ballistic missiles, because we were involved in a Cold War with Russia. And that was the front for all the rocket testings, were us testing intercontinental ballistic missiles. So the military contractors there, corporatocracy's been hanging around a lot. It's just the same as the old classic thing that I play, from time to time, wherever the hell it is. It's in here somewhere. I'm sorry, the way this thing functions, it is just not. Yeah.
This evening, I can its grave implications. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
Ike Eisenhower, a general, president and a general. I would say he knows what he was talking about. Yeah.
Hey, it's me. How you doing, man?
I'm doing okay. I'm trying to get through this broadcast. So, yeah, I mean, these are realities that people just don't. It's so funny. I was scanning through YouTube this morning as I was preparing for the show, and in fact, I'm going to shut this off. I don't know if this will, just in case there was any kind of weirdness going on, stealing bandwidth. Because I've had that happen, and there's no reason. I've done the speed test and all that jazz. And for some reason, now the cat has decided that it's going to start playing some kind of game here. If you want to walk back and forth, Mr. Kitten, you can do so. But you're an older cat now. Watch for the tail. See the tail? There's the tail. We will see that thing pass here a couple of times because freaking cats. Gotta love them, though. Gotta love them. So, back to this idea of the watches and the Sumerians and these ancient structures, right? So what if, 36,000 years ago, 72,000 years ago, someone did, not someone, but some group of people, forget about space aliens and all that sort of thing. Tail. That kind of thing, there may well have been some spacefaring peoples. I don't discount that. I mean, it's quite possible. I know the Pentagon's coming out now with, confirming all of these UFOs and everything. But the idea is that, the government has lied to us for 70 years or more. Well, they've lied to us longer than that. But I mean, the question you have to ask is, why now and why should we believe them? And, what the? So, I don't know. Are these, so, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. It just seems to me like it might be, as the plague kind of dies down, that they're getting people primed for something new to be afraid or, not at ease about. They like to keep people like, scared or in a state of, just not relaxed. Fear, right? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I don't even know what this whole thing that we've just still going through is about. I mean, just seems to me, it's just fishy, really fishy. So, when you can't trust anything, it's like trust no one. It's a sad, like, state of affairs when you're in that, in that position in life. That's why I've moved so much away from it all, and say, just try to detach yourself as best as possible from the corporatocracy. And why I don't believe that we're going to leave this planet. See, let's look at it in two different ways. Let's say that I'm wrong and Davidson and Vogt, these are names, these are prominent names in the catastrophe world. Say all these guys and what I talked to you about in previous videos, say all that stuff isn't going to happen. It won't come to fruition. Well, it's just okay. So I'm wrong. All right. No Earth catastrophe. And it didn't happen in the past. Okay. And like anyone, I'm willing to say that, anything's possible, right? If there's, a percentage, law of probability is statistics, thing may or may not happen depending on the whole series or confluence of events and whatever variables that may exist. Okay, so we throw that out the window. Then we look at this organized crime syndicate running the world, the fall of Western civilization, and the former United States of America, because we have irreconcilable differences. This country's gone, right? I mean, dumbing down of America is kind of crude, but the fact is most people are functionally illiterate. And it has nothing to do with the stuff that the media is throwing out there where they're trying to pit people against each other based on color and, weird social things that they've just manufactured over the past decade, kind of coinciding with the smartphone era. And, this is like, it's like stuff's gone viral and it's actually gone viral into their heads, So it's like, it's either dopamine hit or fear, mass panic, right? Widespread panic. So how out of that civilization, right? Former Western civilization. See, forget about Eastern civilization, right? I mean, you have to, communist China is being ruled by a dictator, the Communist Chinese Party, 1.5 billion people. All right. That is not, their motives are not good motives. They're colonizing Africa and South America. They've got this thing called the Silk Road. The average person doesn't even understand what's going on with that. India has another 1 billion plus people. All right. And vast majority live in poverty, in horrible conditions, overcrowding. The country's been doing pretty good as far as technology and improving things, but they've got a long way to go, man. It's not assuming everything would go well for India. They're decades and decades and decades away from catching up to what was Western civilization, right? And then you have other Southeast Asian countries where people are living, like I say, there's spots, where the elite go to. So there's little casino cities. There's like places that were like, well, Hong Kong China's really going big time after Hong Kong. But places like Hong Kong, Singapore, there's certain areas, that were, preserved, had cities, areas, that were where the elite could meet, put it that way. Likewise, the Middle East. What's not bombed back into, smithereens, some of these rich former oil countries, and Dubai and places like that, they have their centers of, where their elite, live in high concentrations. And it's not like Africa is like some out of control continent, but it is a continent. And the fact of the matter is, apart from South Africa, some of the coastal cities and certain areas that, again, have become built up and modernized, the vast majority of that continent is, people are living in poverty. And South America is the same way. There's some beautiful places in South America, unbelievably beautiful places. But the vast majority of people, even in cities like Rio and places that people know, there's just vast poverty. I mean, the reason people from South America, Central America, and Mexico want to come over the border is because, because they obviously don't like where they are. But they're living in the tropics. Think about that. Perfect weather. Right? If Rio was great, who'd want to leave Rio? Right? Nicaragua. Who'd want to live there or leave there? Mexico. People go to Mexico for vacations, but they go to the places where the elite meet. Right? And it's the same in the U.S. The gangs are just growing. Crime is increasing. I talked about Chicago and these inner cities. Nobody's really doing anything about that. Right? There's rhetoric, there's political talk. So you got one party, the last people supporting the last president saying, save America from the crowd who's in there now. And then you get the crowd in there now that are just talk. And the people before the last guy, they were talk. And before the last guy's talk. And things just keep spiraling down. And nothing gets better. And everyone just keeps saying, oh, vote for me and I'll set you free. That's how crazy it is. And it just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. And anything a political party claims to do or even does is easily erased with the stroke of a pen by the next group that comes in. Or worse, is totally ignored. It's like when these social media companies sit before Congress in these hearings and they lie, right? And then they have terms of service which have no validity. They're not laws, right? And so they violate the U.S. Constitution, free speech, the fourth, everything. And, and the courts don't, there's no challenge to it. Oh, there are people challenging them, but the courts say, oh, we're not going to hear that. There's people getting like get freedom of information documents and stuff like that. And they publish them. No, nothing gets done about it. There's newsreaders on TV that talk about this and bring on guests to expose something. Nothing happens. Right? But people still want to believe. See, that's the thing. They won't accept this. And some people say, well, you're a defeatist. We have to at least try. We did try. We've been trying. And we found out that we're under a totalitarian rule. All right? The world is being run by several thousand people. It is a international crime syndicate that takes people out, disappears people, threatens people, has the power over all of the corporatocracies which were formerly nations. I mean, look at all the people that were suicided just in the past couple of years. Look at all the things that came to light over the past several years. Even past couple decades. Right? That just get swept under the rug. Or maybe you're not even aware of half that stuff. Because most people, if you're a news junkie and you watch the main networks, you don't even know what's going on. Pardon me. Yeah, you don't even know what's going on. And that's how most people are. So they want to believe, but not like Mulder's poster here I've got up there. They want to believe in UFOs or aliens or something. No, they want to believe that they could save America or something. Or that there's going to be some, this cult of personality, some messianic figure that they've already got in their mind is going to save America. And everywhere you go, it's just politics is pop culture. To all these functionally illiterate people who are news junkies trying to get dopamine hits from something that didn't even exist 10 plus years ago, but now has become the center of their frickin' life. That's mass insanity is what it is. And you think a culture, a society, a civilization like that is going to explore the planets, is going to cure cancer, cure heart disease, cure diabetes, and all these other ridiculous things. Check out the leading causes of death sometime. They're not the thing that they've got on the TV screen. It's heart disease, it's cancer, it's a bunch of things. It's just not that, though. That's way down on the list. It's all about profit. The U.S. has become a for-profit corporatocracy. That corporatocracy is an amalgamation of big tech, big pharma, military-industrial complex, the Wall Street, central bankers, right? Big med. Right? Big ag even, right? And let's not forget the oil industry, and all of that. Energy industry. This is becoming, that's a whole other game they're playing with this Green New Deal and stuff. It's an illogical thing that they're pushing, right? And people just sit back and accept it. And then I was trying to explain. You've got 75 million plus people 17 and under who are already gone through the nanny state and revisionist education, indoctrination. They're conditioned. And the people now are just who are above that age are like dealing with daily propaganda. They don't know this kind of stuff. One person watches my video or something. People don't know what's going on. It's not even like on their mind. That's why I say this whole idea. Okay, so the Pentagon says UFOs, and people's even reaction to that is kind of funny. Instead of it being like, "Wow, this is aliens," it's like, okay, what did the president say, or what's going on at the border, or what's going on with Israel? The world's getting back into little skirmishes and civil wars and unrest all over. The country's just 19,000 homicides a year. It's probably up to 20,000. That's an older statistic from a couple of years ago. 20,000 homicides a year? Think about that. Hey, honey, let's move to this country where they have 20,000 homicides a year. I don't think so. Right? Hell, the U.S. has more people in the prison system than many countries combined. I think we're the highest incarcerated crowd because we have private prisons, so it's a for-profit. That's why I try to tell you about the corporatocracy. And people talk about we got to balance the budget, right? When money's basically becoming just a ledger in the cloud. What does this have to do with science and technology? Well, it's all about science and technology. It's because we have all this stuff. We have this science and technology. We've got all kinds of devices. We've got all kinds of stuff. In my book Codex, I was talking about the hard problem of consciousness. That's what people should be focusing on. The bioelectric brain, the human being, figuring out all that stuff. Sorry. Yeah, I'll tell you, man. I know it's repetitive what I say, but it's gotten to the point where if you don't really understand that you have to, that this is reality, what I'm talking about, then, there's really no hope for you. And your life is not, it's maybe fine right now, but it's not going to be. So save your money. Don't support any kind of every penny you give to a political candidate or some kind of movement is basically money that is going to make your life, ultimately will come back and bite you. What you need to do is to make sure that you have everything you need in order to live a good life, a good, happy, healthy, with a good quality of life. And forget about this Save America stuff. Western civilization has fallen. The U.S. is irreconcilable differences. If you can't see that, you really need to see a shrink or do some real soul searching, because it's staring you right in the face. Right? You think red state, blue states are going to change colors? You think the left is going to meet with the right? You think the pro-abortion people are going to meet with the people who are anti-abortion? You think the pro-Second Amendment people are going to be having a love fest with the people that want to take away all the guns? You think the social media that's restricting free speech and ignoring the First Amendment is going to suddenly like see the light and let you, and bring back all those people that they banned and censored and blocked? You really think so? No. And do you think, and when we had, the last president in there, he had all the opportunity in the world to do stuff. It didn't happen. Wasn't permitted to. Because the president of the United States is not in charge. The Congress of the United States is not in charge. The corporatocracy is in charge. And even when they pass laws, the corporatocracy just ignores them. They ignore them. They say, oh, okay. And they ignore them. They don't act. The courts, oh, but we have a court system. The courts say, we're not going to take that case. They ignore it. The corporatocracy rules. Big tech rules. Do you see that? Big pharma is in charge. I told you the testing industry alone has become $100 billion industry. I mean, this is ridiculous. They turn everything into a profit, some sort of revenue stream, profit center. They want social unrest, and they want unrest around the world so they could sell weapons to both sides. That's what it's all about. It's an organized crime syndicate. I don't care about you. Look at my, look at my hat. Look at my bandana. That's all you are to them. You're cattle. Get it through your head. Now, all that said, can you live a good life? Assuming the cataclysm doesn't occur. And the answer is yes. You need to detach yourself from the corporatocracy as much as possible. You need to not watch the nightly news and binge watch the nightly news. You need to stop making, a thing, a phone. It's one of the earlier versions. The center of your life, your existence. 10 years ago, it wasn't. So how could it possibly be the center of your life and the most important thing? Do you see how your brain's been thrown through a blender? Do you understand? See, when you're indoctrinated, when people are basically brainwashed, they don't know they're brainwashed. If they did, they wouldn't call it brainwashing or indoctrination or propaganda or conditioning. You see? They don't know. That's the whole purpose of brainwashing, indoctrination, conditioning, propaganda, revisionist history, lies through omission, and outright lying to you. Of course you don't know it. And of course you're going to be resistant to what I'm saying. You've been conditioned otherwise. Everything I'm saying goes against everything you've been taught, you believe to be true. So you have to have cognitive dissonance and say, that guy's crazy. He's the propagandist. You see? But I'm talking about living a good quality of life and taking care of your family and being happy. How could that be a bad thing? I'm not asking you for money. I don't make money. How could that be a bad thing? What's my motivation? Your happiness is my motivation? How could that be a bad thing? You having a better quality of life? How could that be a bad thing? So you need to think about that. You need to realize that this thing is messing with your mind. Okay? It's messing with your mind. That the school system that you attended has messed with your mind. That the TV news and the notification news, push technology, Apple News, all Google News, whatever, is messing with your mind. And these emails you get to donate money, Save America, or keep, support us with our infrastructure bill. It's bullshit, man. It's bullshit. Nothing changes. The corporatocracy is in control. They do not care. And every time you send money, it goes to the corporatocracy. Political donations go to the media. The media is owned by the corporatocracy. You are funding the very people who are trying to make your life miserable and who are bringing on a totalitarian dystopian state. You're actually paying for it. It's like, it's mass insanity. You are subconsciously supporting your own demise. The American people actually paid for the destruction of America, right? Western civilization countries actually funded the destruction, the end of Western civilization. It's ridiculous. It's insane, but it's true. And we also funded the rise of the communist Chinese, right? The white handkerchief is a signature of my my show.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
So all I'm saying, excuse me, is try to think. Take a quiet moment sometime and just try to think. Think about what you're doing. Think about everything. Try to find some sort of, logic left in that, bioelectric brain of yours that can rationalize this stuff out, and see things the way they are. Detach yourself from the corporatocracy. Reduce your cost of living. Don't fund this authoritarian state. And you'll find out that it's a beautiful world. Despite the fact that from space it looks like the planet looks like a junk heap, like a landfill in space junk. And no, we're not going to have colonies on Mars. It's not going to happen. All right. We're not going to have self-driving cars. 6 million car crashes a year. We're not going to have self-driving cars. 40,000 people die in car crashes a year. Self-driving cars aren't going to reduce that. Suicides are up and going up. Heart disease is still the leading cause of death. Cancer is still the second leading cause of death. All right? People are still morbidly obese. Diabetes is still killing untold numbers of people. There's all kinds of things that just aren't being looked at because people are making money off of it. The for-profit corporatocracy is in charge. So what do I do? Okay. I'll tell you how did I get free of the corporatocracy? Well, first of all, I left I stopped living in an apartment that I was paying a couple of thousand, ultimately with all things told was costing me almost a couple $1,000s a month. And I bought a house where my rent, my mortgage, insurance and taxes are less than $200 a month. Okay. So I cut my, those costs down, by a tenth more or less. I mean, I still have bills, but I got rid of TV. So I don't have a TV bill. I got rid of I was paying Apple or Verizon or something for a cell phone service was like 80 some bucks a month or something. I don't know what it was. And now I pay $40 a year for Wi-Fi phone and my home phone. It's all included. I have an app on my old phone, which I could put on any phone. Further down the line, I grow a garden in my backyard. In fact, I'm due for a garden. I should do a garden tour video today, which I'll probably post on Locals, or it might be on YouTube, or both. You just, you simplify your life, but, yesterday I went out in the backyard. I watered my garden. I laid down the lounge chair. It's like 80 degrees, sunny, blue sky. And I got a suntan listening to music because I've got some outdoor speakers set up out there. This is in a house that I bought, and my mortgage, insurance, and taxes are less than $200 a month. And I closed my eyes and I was wherever I wanted to be. I could have been on my own private island. I could have been in some place like Cancun or wherever Hawaiian Beach, or Virginia Beach or the Jersey Shore. Wherever I wanted to be. My eyes are closed and I'm getting a suntan. I'm feeling the sun on my my body. I'm listening to some music. Right? Think about that. Take a vacation in your backyard. Right? Your quality of life does not have to be diminished by reducing your cost of living or your connection to the corporatocracy. And while I was out there, I did not have my cell phone or smartphone with me. I actually just had a house phone out in case I got a call. And by not watching TV, I don't have to deal with the aggravating commercials and nonsense and, get stressed out about all that nonsense. Things like YouTube and all these other services that you can now just buy month to month are available on, either with a set-top box or if you have a smart TV. I mean, granted, most of the services pretty much suck, but, one service 1 month might have 1 or 2 movies and a series that's worth watching. So then you cancel it after you binge watch the series and watched a couple movies. And then there's another service that might have a decent movie and a series worth binge watching. And so you get that, you pay the $10 and watch that one. That's what I do. So, it's not like, technology's technology. You still got your music. I have 10,000 songs or more in my music collection. I don't know how many there are. So I'm not talking about living like these stupid preppers and homesteaders, crapping in a composting toilet. and having to take that out and clean that up and deal with that nonsense. No, I'm talking about just living life, a good quality of life, which for me is a better quality of life. In fact, I have a better quality of life here because when I was living in an apartment, I didn't have a balcony or a patio or anything like that. You know, in fact, I was on a third floor apartment paying ridiculous amount of money with neighbors, so I couldn't play my music loud if I wanted to. You know, now I'm in a place I could blast music if I wanted to. I go out in my backyard and it's my own private little world. Cost me less than $200 a month, all included. You know, there's places like that out there. And even if you don't want to move, if you already have a place that's affordable and, you know, you're happy with your job and stuff like that, you know, you just look at your numbers. You know, I put it in like my book, which is totally buried. I don't know what kind. I'll try to get this out. So I'm connected with wires, so it's a difficult thing to do. A monthly budget. Yeah, that's the first step to freeing yourself from the corporatocracy. Take, you know, assess your life, what you're spending, what you want to do, and where you want to be in the next 5 years, you know, that kind of thing. And, you know, just be happy, right? Don't worry, be happy. I mean, that's basically it. I mean, it's simple. It's not as complicated as people think. You know, they like to make life seem complicated. This is whole idea of this fear mongering that's going on. You know, there's always something they want trying to scare people with. Keep you off, you know, out of kilter or off center, like, or, you know, just not relaxed, stress you out some way. But it doesn't have to be that way. You just have to see through it. You have to realize that, you know, this did not exist 10 years ago. These companies, Twitter and Facebook, they weren't around 10, 15 years ago. For most people, you know. So social media, now the center of your life, so important to you. You know, such a big part. I mean, it's different if you, like I said, for someone born in, you know, somebody who's 17 years old or 20 years old, 21 years old even, well, they don't know any better because by the time, you know, they were 4 or 5 or 6, these things were coming out. So they know nothing other than that. You know, and that's why I'm saying, so you can forget about the 75 million people 17 and under, because to them, there is no other reality. And you remember, it's the people who grew up without that created all of this. All right. And I'm watching this technology crumble all around me. See, unless you are of the ruling class or you happen to be fortunately like bringing in high 6 or 7 figures right now, right? and you're wasting all your money. Like, if you're buying shit, because I know I went through a stage, when I was making, I would get some extra money from, when I was, had a couple of projects going on, and you get like kind of a little windfall from one you didn't expect. Somebody asked you to do something. You said, I'll do it for a couple $1,000s, and they give you a couple $1,000. And so you go out and you might buy a thing that you normally wouldn't. Well, there's people out there that are buying all the time. They go shopping every weekend, or they're shopping online all the freaking time. And so, yeah, I guess if you have, for example, if you're somebody who uses graphics and things like that, if you don't mind paying the Adobe extortion monthly cloud service, if you don't mind having paying $80 or whatever it is a month for the latest iPhone, or Galaxy, whatever Android phone. If you don't mind buying a brand new computer every couple of years for a couple of grand, good ones cost a couple of grand. They really do. I mean, you could buy junk. My computer setup, which is old right now, is $2,000. Like $2,000 worth of equipment. This monitor I'm using is a 27-inch monitor. Who wants anything smaller than that, right? And in my bedroom, I watch YouTube and like Netflix or something like that on like a 30-something, 32, or I don't know what it is, 30 something. It's over 30 HD TV. And I've got one in my kitchen bar. These are things I just accumulated, but I'm not going to buy new. My sound effects thing over here,
This is a nightmare. Must be a nightmare.
That's my old G5. That's a computer I've had for like 15 years. That's why I can't put some software on it. However, it's able to run old software. So the software that I'd have to pay extortion fees, monthly cloud fees for on this computer. On that computer, I have copies of it because I purchased them years ago, and I had the box and the CD and all that stuff. And so they operate on there. So I have Photoshop and InDesign and Illustrator, and even some of the really old ones like PageMaker and Freehand, programs that don't even exist anymore, really. They won't run on anything. And something called Clara's Homepage. This was one of the best website building programs ever made. But they haven't made that in over 20 years. But I have it there and it runs on that computer. So, stuff is, you accumulate stuff. You keep the stuff you need. I'm not a hoarder, I've got a bunch of stuff behind me, but it's just kind of like a set, I just put some objects here that I thought, are apropos to what we talk about. The old 1960s phone that still works, Game Over is another one of my hats. I make these shirts, like everything you know is wrong, and you don't know what you don't know. And they're available at, TonyCaravanLive.com. And then all these weird devices, these solar and, portable power devices are available on my website, greatsolarstuff.com. Just stuff I do. The old Mac is that's just a classic. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't think it's that difficult once you come to grips with the fact that Western civilization isn't coming back. In other words, Rome has fallen. Okay. Spain is no longer, sending conquistadors to South America. The British Empire, right, no longer is in charge of India. Gandhi kicked them out, right? They left. Even South Africa, is now under different rule. Okay. The crown still plays its game, but, Britain is not the world power. Okay. China is a force to be reckoned with, but Xi, the communist Chinese leader, spoke at the World Economic Forum and got a round of applause. So the international crime syndicate that's in charge of the world, he's part of that. And so is the U.S. and so is Britain. And so is, most of these UN, countries. And that's basically how the world runs. It's a socioeconomic, geopolitical nightmare to people who grew up in a different era. But it is what it is, and once you accept that it is what it is, that's that. Same with the U.S. The U.S. is gone. It's a geological or a geographical location, all right? Yes, you are an American, all right? But the United States of America no longer exists. It has irreconcilable differences among the states, so the word united right off the bat. And there's nothing going to change that. That marriage has been dissolved because of irreconcilable differences. And if you don't see that, well, I don't know why you don't. I gave you the examples. I'm not going to repeat them and repeat them and repeat them. All right. The ideologies are so diametrically opposed to one another that they're irreconcilable. And so you cannot have a country. So what happened? Who filled the power vacuum? The corporatocracy, big tech, all right, big pharma, military industrial complex, Wall Street and the central bankers, right, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's the way it is. The sooner you realize that, the better. So conserve your money, simplify your life, reduce your expenses, improve the quality of your life, and have fun. Live life out. Go out, get a suntan in your backyard, take a vacation in your backyard. Or if you're fortunate enough, head for the beach right now. Because the weather's hot and the rates are cheaper. Usually before Memorial Day, you can get a better rate on a hotel. Anyway, that's all I've got to say. So, good morning. Have a good morning. Have a good rest of your weekend. And I don't know if I'm going to talk to you tomorrow or do this every day from now on. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to think about that. But in any event, best of luck and live well. And if you've got problems with people, remember, living well is the best revenge. Forget about being stressed out and angry and all that stuff. It's a waste of time and energy. Cheers. Take care.